Chosen one. This message arrives at the perfect divine moment in your journey, not by accident, not by random chance, but through sacred timing orchestrated specifically for you. You were guided to these words because heaven recognizes what you've endured. A profound, soul-shaping examination that remained invisible to everyone around you, but was fully witnessed by God. This message serves as your divine confirmation. You didn't merely survive these trials, you passed them with flying colors. Not by cutting corners, not by compromising who you truly are, but by standing firm in your truth when everything around you was crumbling. There are seasons in life that feel like one relentless test after another, a storm that refuses to subside. The betrayals, the financial hardships, the loneliness, the shattered dreams, the unanswered prayers, you've weathered them all. Yet, here you stand, still breathing, still hoping, still believing. This isn't coincidence. It's divine design. What appeared as punishment was actually preparation. And what makes your story extraordinary is how you passed. Not through manipulation or shortcuts, but through perseverance, faith, and unwavering authenticity. This is your story of rising. This is your testament to resilience. This is your reminder that you were chosen not for an easy path, but for an exceptional purpose. Throughout the next 7 chapters, I'll reveal what this journey truly signifies and why you possess more strength than you've ever realized. The hardest exam wasn't meant to break you. It was designed to reveal you. Before we continue this sacred journey together, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, because this message isn't just for you. It's for every chosen soul ready to transform rejection and pain into divine power and purpose. The ripple effect of your testimony will reach others who desperately need this wisdom. If something within you resonates with these words, type 777 in the comments below. This isn't just a number, it's a spiritual declaration that you recognize your divine assignment and are claiming your inheritance as a chosen vessel. Only those truly selected will remain until the end, and those who do will receive the clarity, strength, and breakthrough they've been awaiting. Each time you revisit this message, deeper layers of truth will unveil themselves to your spirit. The wisdom contained here isn't meant to be absorbed in one sitting. It will continue speaking to different seasons of your journey. So let us begin this sacred revelation together, Chosen One. Your exam wasn't just a test. It was the preparation for your greatest calling. Chapter 1. The exam nobody saw coming. Life has a way of testing us without any warning. There are no announcements, no preparation guides, no gentle introductions to what's coming. One moment, everything feels normal and predictable. You're following your routine, believing you have control over your circumstances, and then, like a sudden shift in the spiritual atmosphere, everything changes. The storm arrives without explanation or mercy. People you trusted walk away without looking back. Carefully constructed plans disintegrate before your eyes. Financial burdens multiply overnight. Prayers that once felt powerful now seem to echo unanswered into emptiness. And there you stand, in the center of a personal battlefield. You never enlisted for fighting a war. You never wanted. But here's what makes your journey extraordinary. Chosen One. No one else could see the magnitude of what you were facing. They couldn't witness the invisible war raging around you. You wore a brave face in public while falling apart in private. You smiled when your heart was breaking. You showed up with strength, When exhaustion was crushing your spirit, the world saw only your composure, but heaven witnessed your complete reality. They didn't see the tears soaking your pillow at night. They couldn't hear your silent cries for help. They had no idea of the weight you carried completely alone, day after day, when even breathing felt like an impossible task. You kept moving forward when everything within you was screaming to give up. Yes, you questioned. Yes, you doubted. The why me haunted your thoughts. You felt abandoned by heaven and forgotten by God. The silence was deafening, but through it all, something deep within your spirit refused to surrender. A quiet voice beneath all the chaos whispered, "Hold on. Not yet. Don't quit." That wasn't merely your resilience speaking. It was God reminding you that this wasn't your ending. It was your divine examination. This wasn't an ordinary test with simple answers. This was the examination of your faith, your character, and your spiritual resilience. This was the kind of test that reveals who you truly are when everything familiar is stripped away, when no one is watching, when no one would know if you compromised. What most people fail to understand about divine testing is that it's never about what you know intellectually. It's about what you carry spiritually. It's about how you respond when nothing makes sense. It's about staying anchored to your principles when compromise seems easier. It's about standing firm when everyone else would understand if you fell. The real test happens in the unseen realms, in the silence of your heart, in the struggle of your mind, in the solitude of your darkest moments. That's where your true character is revealed. Not in public declarations, but in private decisions. You didn't see this exam coming, but when it arrived, it didn't destroy you, because buried beneath your ordinary existence was something extraordinary that even you didn't fully recognize. An unshakable faith, a quiet strength, a sacred fire that refused to be extinguished by the storms of life. You didn't collapse under pressure that would have crushed others. You didn't betray your values when no one would have blamed you. You didn't become bitter when resentment seemed justified, and that, chosen one, is how you passed the first phase of your divine examination. What you couldn't see then, but are beginning to understand now, is that heaven was keeping a sacred record of your journey. Every tear was counted. Every sleepless night was witnessed. Every sacrifice was honored. Every moment of faithfulness was treasured. You weren't being broken, you were being built. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. This was merely the first chapter in your spiritual becoming, and you passed the most difficult part simply by showing up day after day. You endured when walking away seemed more logical. You stood your ground when everything beneath you was shaking. You kept your heart compassionate when life gave you every reason to harden it. And that chosen one was the evidence heaven needed, not what others say about you, not what your past declares over you, but what God already knew was within you. You are ready for what comes next. You are prepared for greater responsibility. You are equipped for deeper purpose. The exam was never designed to defeat you. It was orchestrated to reveal you to yourself and to the world. What appears as your greatest struggle is actually unveiling your greatest strength. What have your trials revealed about the extraordinary spirit within you? Chapter 2. Silence in the Storm. There's a particular kind of silence that doesn't merely fill the space around you, it penetrates your very soul. It's the heavy, profound silence that follows after you've cried out to God with every ounce of your being. You've poured out your heart, surrendered, your pain, begged for intervention, and in return, you hear nothing. No answer, no direction, no breakthrough, no whisper of comfort, just overwhelming, deafening silence. You pleaded for just one sign. You searched desperately for any indication that heaven was still watching over you. You bargained, promised, wept, and waited, but the skies remained silent. The doors stayed firmly closed. Time stretched endlessly without relief or resolution. Each day felt like another confirmation that perhaps you had been forgotten. That silence can feel like the most profound rejection imaginable. It weighs heavier than any burden you've carried. It can make you question everything you once believed with certainty. Are my prayers even reaching heaven? Has God turned away from me? Was my faith built on illusion rather than truth? But here's the sacred revelation most people miss in their spiritual journey: that silence wasn't evidence of God's absence. It was actually the most powerful sign of His attention. He was watching with perfect focus and divine intentionality. Just as a teacher remains completely silent during the most important examination, God was observing how you would respond when you couldn't hear His voice or feel His presence. Would you still believe when doubt seemed more reasonable? Would you still obey when rebellion would be understood? Would you still trust when nothing in your circumstances supported that trust? And remarkably, chosen one, you did. You didn't understand the purpose behind your pain, but you kept moving forward. You couldn't feel His presence, but you continued speaking to Him anyway. You couldn't see a clear path ahead, but you took one faithful step after another into the unknown. That kind of faith, the faith that persists in darkness, is both rare and powerful. It can't be manufactured or pretended. It's not born in mountaintop experiences or moments of spiritual ecstasy. True faith is forged in silence, refined in stillness, and strengthened through solitude. In that seemingly abandoned season, something extraordinary happened within you. You encountered parts of yourself you never knew existed. You discovered reservoirs of strength that had remained untapped. You learned to stand without external support. You developed the spiritual muscles needed to breathe through anxiety, rise above fear, and navigate without familiar landmarks. And in the deepest, darkest center of that storm, a profound realization began to take root. Even in silence, God was actively shaping you. He was expanding your capacity for endurance. He was purifying your character. He was systematically removing your dependence on everything and everyone else until your faith no longer rested on shifting feelings, but on unshakable truth. You gradually understood that divine silence doesn't equal divine rejection. It signals that the examination is actively unfolding. It means heaven is watching with bated breath to see what choice you'll make next. It confirms you've reached the advanced level of your spiritual journey, where your strength isn't being questioned, it's being proven beyond doubt. And still you walked forward. Not because the path was clear, but because something deep within your spirit whispered that giving up wasn't an option. Not because you had concrete answers, but because you chose to believe when doubt would have been easier. That quiet determination, that stubborn faith that refused to dissolve in uncertainty, that was a critical component of your divine examination. And without even realizing it, you passed. Not because you had the loudest proclamations or the most dramatic spiritual experiences, but because you endured the sacred silence. Not because you possessed all the answers, but because you continued believing when answers were withheld. In that storm, wrapped in what seemed like divine absence, but was actually divine attention, something miraculous happened. You didn't just survive, you were transformed. The silence wasn't punishment. It was the sacred cocoon where your spiritual metamorphosis could occur undisturbed. What others might have interpreted as abandonment was actually the most intimate form of spiritual craftsmanship. In the silence, you were being remade. Your spiritual ears were being attuned to recognize God's voice at frequencies you couldn't perceive before. Your spiritual eyes were being calibrated to see divine fingerprints in circumstances you previously would have missed. The silence wasn't God's absence. It was His most concentrated presence working in realms too sacred for ordinary perception. Have you recognized yet how that silence prepared you for who you're becoming now? Chapter 3. No shortcuts, no compromises. When life pushes people to their absolute limits, human nature often seeks the easiest escape route. Many surrender to compromise when pressure intensifies. Some construct elaborate lies to avoid consequences. Others wear masks and personas to gain acceptance. Many step on whoever stands in their way to reach their destination faster. In a world where the end result is celebrated more than the journey taken, integrity becomes optional and truth becomes negotiable. The pressure to succeed, to survive, to prove your worth can tempt even the most principled souls to bend their values just this once. After all, who would know, who would see, who would blame you for taking the easier path when your burdens seemed unbearable? But you, chosen one, you walked a different road entirely. You could have taken those tempting shortcuts. You could have played by the world's corrupt rules. You could have hardened your heart against further pain and betrayal. You could have retaliated against those who wounded you. You could have manipulated circumstances, abandoned commitments, compromised your standards, and created an illusion of success while sacrificing your soul in the process. But you didn't. You held your ground when the ground itself seemed to be crumbling beneath you. You clung to your values even when that choice cost you opportunities, relationships, recognition, and peace. You refused to abandon your authentic self even when becoming someone else promised immediate relief. That isn't weakness, as the world might suggest. That is extraordinary power. It requires immeasurable strength to remain compassionate in a world that rewards coldness. It demands uncommon courage to choose character over convenience, and it takes a truly chosen spirit to walk the higher path when the lower one is wide, well-traveled, and seemingly successful. Those around you couldn't see what you were silently resisting. They didn't witness the temptations you refused, the shortcuts. You rejected the easier options. You declined. They didn't know how many times you could have compromised just a little to ease your suffering. But heaven saw everything. God witnessed every choice, every internal battle, every moment you chose right over easy. This chapter of your divine examination wasn't merely about enduring difficult circumstances. It was about enduring them with your soul intact. Because anyone can display an impressive exterior. Anyone can project success. Anyone can pretend to have it all together. But precious few can walk through purifying fire and emerge with their core values uncompromised. You didn't choose the easy escape routes when they presented themselves. You didn't trade eternal principles for temporary comfort. You didn't sacrifice who you truly are to pacify others or avoid discomfort. You made the courageous choice, often the lonely choice, to do things the right way, even when no one was applauding your integrity. Integrity doesn't shine as brightly as wealth or status in our immediate world. It doesn't draw attention or acclaim. It doesn't usually come with trophies or recognition. But integrity carries a weight and worth that cannot be purchased, faked, or manufactured. It emanates from within and transforms everything it touches. When you choose integrity, you're making a declaration about what truly matters. You're choosing to build something lasting rather than something merely impressive. You're prioritizing the eternal over the temporary. You've demonstrated you're capable of more than superficial success. You're worthy of meaningful impact, the kind that doesn't require sacrificing your peace of mind. The kind that doesn't demand the compromise of your conscience, the kind that makes heaven itself take notice. Because here's the profound truth. Anyone can survive this world, but not everyone can survive with their soul intact. Not everyone can look in the mirror and truthfully say, I didn't sell out. I didn't lose myself in pursuit of what others defined as winning. I remained true. That is what separates you from the crowd. That is what marks you as chosen. You didn't merely pass the test, you passed it with spiritual honor. You walked through fire and emerged without the scent of smoke. You remained authentic when pretending would have been simpler. This quality, this uncompromising integrity in the face of overwhelming pressure, wasn't something you were taught. It was divinely planted within you. It's the evidence of your selection, the confirmation of your calling. And now, because you refused to compromise your foundation, everything you're building stands on unshakable ground. What you're creating cannot be easily destroyed. Who you're becoming cannot be undone or reversed. Your reward isn't just the external blessings coming your way. It's who you've become through the process. Strong, pure, steadfast, chosen. How many times were you tempted to take shortcuts that no one would have known about? What gave you the strength to choose the higher road when no one was watching? Chapter 4. The Breaking That Built You. Let's speak truth about your journey, chosen one. It almost broke you completely. There were moments, dark, desperate moments, when you weren't certain how much more you could possibly endure. The sheer weight of your circumstances felt like it would crush your spirit beyond repair. Your body was exhausted. Your mind was overwhelmed. Your emotions were raw. Every single day presented another mountain to climb, another battle to fight, another storm to weather. Your physical strength was depleted. Your mental clarity clouded your heart, aching with questions that seemed to have no answers. Some days it felt as though the entire universe was conspiring against you, as if you were being punished for choosing righteousness, when the world around you seemed to reward those who took the easier, compromised path. The confusion was perhaps the most painful part of all. You couldn't understand why the suffering wouldn't end despite your faithfulness. You couldn't make sense of why the storms intensified, even though you were doing everything right. The questions multiplied. The doubts grew louder. Why me? Echoed through your spirit. Why does this path have to be so painful? You looked around and witnessed others progressing effortlessly, living carefree lives without the constant burden you carried. The unfairness of it all was undeniable. You felt isolated in your struggle, wondering if anyone truly understood the depth of your pain. The emotional and physical toll left you questioning how much longer you could continue this journey. There were moments when surrender seemed like the only logical option left. But what was actually happening beneath the surface of your struggle? You weren't breaking down. You were being broken open. God wasn't trying to destroy you. He was revealing the extraordinary strength hidden within you. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared for something greater than you could imagine. You were being stretched beyond familiar boundaries, pulled into an expanded version of yourself that your current vision couldn't yet perceive. Though excruciating, this was the necessary transformation required for your divine assignment. A diamond doesn't form without experiencing tremendous pressure in absolute darkness. Gold doesn't reveal its purest brilliance without enduring the refiner's fire. And a chosen one doesn't discover their true capacity without being tested beyond what seems humanly possible. The immense pressure crushing against you wasn't meant to break your spirit. It was strategically shaping you into the vessel you were destined to become. It was systematically removing everything that was hindering your true potential. The fear, the doubt, the insecurities, the limiting beliefs, the unhealthy attachments. It was refining your character, strengthening your resilience, and deepening your spiritual insight in ways that comfort never could. With every tear you shed, with every trial you faced, with every moment you chose to continue, despite the pain, you were being forged into something more magnificent, more powerful, and more purposeful than you could have possibly created through your own efforts. You see, the breaking isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of something extraordinary. You weren't simply enduring pointless suffering. You were growing through necessary transformation. Every challenge, every setback, every heartbreak was contributing to the sacred becoming that has led you to this precise moment in your journey. And while it hurt beyond description, it was essential. You couldn't have reached the heights of your divine calling without traveling through the depths of the valley. You couldn't have developed the wisdom, compassion, and strength you now possess without experiencing the very trials that threatened to destroy you. That's the secret most people never discover. True growth doesn't emerge from comfort. Authentic strength isn't developed through ease. It comes through struggle. It's born when you face the storm directly instead of running from it. It manifests when you stand tall in your truth, even when everything within you is trembling. And now look at who you've become. Through the breaking, you possess wisdom that books cannot teach. You carry resilience that cannot be shaken by ordinary challenges. You embody a grounded certainty about what truly matters. You've shed the layers that were never meant to be part of your authentic self. What remains is pure, unshakable, refined. You've emerged from the fire with a clarity and inner strength that cannot be undone by external circumstances. A chosen one doesn't rise to their full stature without being thoroughly tested. You don't discover who you truly are without being broken open and reformed, without enduring the fire of transformation. But now the flames have completed their purpose. You've emerged, the diamond within you has been revealed. The gold in your spirit shines with unmistakable authenticity. What you've endured hasn't destroyed you. It has prepared you for what comes next. The hardest part of your journey is behind you. The foundation has been established through fire and pressure. And now, with all you've learned, all you've become, you stand ready to step into the fullness of your divine purpose. Ready to live the life you were born to experience. Ready to impact others from a place of authentic transformation. And chosen one, you're just getting started. What aspects of your character were strengthened through your breaking season? Chapter 5. Hidden Grades. Heavenly Promotion. There were no standing ovations for your faithfulness, no public recognition of your endurance, no certificates of achievement hanging on your wall. You didn't receive thunderous applause when you forgave those who wounded you deeply. No one noticed the extraordinary strength it took to keep moving forward despite the crushing weight on your shoulders. The world overlooked your quiet sacrifices, your silent strength, your vulnerable moments of choosing faith over fear. There was no trophy presented when you chose the right path instead of the easy one. No medal awarded for maintaining your integrity when compromise would have been simpler. The praise you so deeply deserved seemed permanently withheld, but chosen one. That didn't mean your efforts went unnoticed or unrecorded. Heaven was watching with undivided attention. God was meticulously grading your divine examination, not based on external performance or public perception, but on the true measure of spiritual growth, your perseverance through adversity, your choices in moments of testing, your heart when everything was stripped away. He witnessed every time you chose kindness when bitterness fought for control of your spirit. He recorded every instance you pursued healing, instead of harboring resentment. He honored every moment you continued moving forward when every fiber of your being wanted to surrender to despair. This sacred examination was never about gaining human recognition, worldly accolades, or material rewards. It was always about the transformation of your heart, the anchoring of your faith, and your unwavering commitment to rise above circumstances rather than being defined by them. And though you couldn't hear it through the noise of your struggles, the most significant applause was already reverberating through heavenly realms. God saw everything: your battles, your courage, your tears, your determination. He witnessed what no one else could see, the profound beauty of your spirit being forged through fire. That's precisely when the true promotion began. Not the kind that comes with a new title on your office door or a larger paycheck, but something infinitely more powerful and lasting: divine elevation. Because when you passed this sacred examination, subtle shifts began occurring in your reality. Have you noticed them yet? Doors that once remained firmly locked have started to open without your straining. Opportunities that seemed perpetually out of reach now appear within your grasp. Dreams that felt impossible now feel divinely supported. But perhaps the most significant transformation has been internal rather than external. A profound peace has begun flowing through your spirit. Not the temporary kind, dependent on perfect circumstances, but the enduring kind, anchored in the quiet assurance that you're precisely where you're meant to be, walking the path you were created to travel. The incessant noise and chaos of the world have started to fade into the background. The opinions that once held power over your sense of worth now seem strangely insignificant. And in that sacred stillness, you've discovered your authentic purpose. The purpose that has always existed within you, patiently waiting for you to grow strong enough to carry it. That purpose speaks with increasing clarity, now guiding your steps with divine precision. It's no longer a distant concept, but a living force directing your journey. God honors faithfulness demonstrated in silence. He treasures every tear you've shed in secret, every prayer you've whispered when no one was listening, every faithful step you've taken when the path was shrouded in darkness. He sees beyond surface appearances to the heart, motivating every action, the sacrifices made without witnesses, the decisions of integrity made when no earthly voice was present to affirm their value. That's where the true promotion resides. Not in human recognition, but in divine acknowledgement. Not in worldly status, but in spiritual elevation. Your faithfulness, your perseverance, your refusal to compromise. These are what have positioned you for this sacred promotion. So while human applause may have been withheld, heaven stood in reverent attention to your journey, and now the divine doors are opening. Sacred peace is flowing. Divine purpose is awakening. You passed the examination that matters most, and heaven never forgets faithfulness demonstrated in silence. God's timing operates with perfect precision. What seemed like delay was actually divine preparation. What felt like rejection was actually protection. What appeared as overlooked effort was being meticulously recorded in realms you couldn't yet perceive. And now you'll begin witnessing the sacred fruits of everything you've endured. You are being divinely promoted, not just externally where others can see, but internally where true power resides. Your capacity has been expanded, your spiritual authority has been increased, your divine assignment has been upgraded. The promotion happening within you will soon become visible without. The seeds planted in tears are about to blossom into unexpected harvest. The prayers whispered in darkness are manifesting in daylight. Can you sense it, chosen one? the shifting of spiritual atmospheres around you, the divine doors swinging open, the heavenly recognition of who you've become through the testing. What internal changes have you noticed that signal your heavenly promotion has already begun? Chapter 6. The chosen walk alone before they lead crowds. You've always felt it, haven't you? That profound sense of being somehow different from those around you. That persistent feeling that you don't quite fit into conventional spaces, no matter how sincerely you try to belong. You've wondered why relationships that seemed permanent suddenly dissolved, why opportunities that appeared perfect for others bypassed you, why your path seemed marked by isolation while others moved forward in community. You watched from the sidelines as others progressed along conventional routes, while you remained in seasons of uncertainty and waiting. The loneliness at times felt absolutely unbearable, as though you were navigating a path that no one else could see or understand. But deep in your spirit, beneath the confusion and pain, you sensed there was something significant about your different journey, something purposeful about your separation. Here's the divine truth. Chosen ones are separated before they are elevated. The path of the chosen has never been easy or ordinary. Those marked for extraordinary purpose are first set apart, not as punishment, but as sacred preparation. There is a necessary season of isolation, a divine corridor of solitude that every authentic leader must walk through before their public assignment begins. During this time, you may have felt abandoned by others or misunderstood by even those closest to you. What you couldn't see then, but are beginning to understand now, is that this separation wasn't rejection. It was protection and preparation for what heaven was crafting within you. In that sacred solitude, something miraculous began happening. Without the constant noise of others' opinions and expectations, you started discovering who you truly are. Without external distractions, your spiritual vision became increasingly clear. Without the pressure to conform, your authentic voice emerged. Isolation isn't divine punishment, it's sacred preparation. It's the consecrated space where your true identity could emerge without contamination. It's where your character could be refined without compromise. It's where your unique perspective could develop without dilution. To truly lead others, you first had to learn to walk alone. You had to face your deepest fears and most persistent doubts without relying on others' approval or support. You had to learn to stand tall in your own spiritual authority without external validation. You had to hear your soul's authentic voice above the deafening noise of others' expectations. This wasn't a season of mere loneliness, it was a season of divine refining. You weren't walking alone because you were rejected. You were walking alone because you were being prepared to guide others through territories you needed to first navigate yourself. You had to discover your own voice before you could speak life into others. You had to find your own path before you could guide anyone else. You had to listen to heaven's whispers before you could attend to others' needs. It's in this sacred solitude that your purpose crystallized and your strength multiplied. You came to understand that you were never truly alone. You were simply being prepared for something greater than ordinary connection could have nurtured. In isolation, you gathered the wisdom, clarity, courage, and compassion that true leadership requires. The people you are destined to lead will be drawn not to superficial charisma, but to the authentic authority that only comes through tested character and genuine transformation. You couldn't possibly lead from emptiness. You had to be filled with divine wisdom and supernatural vision first. You had to become so secure in your identity that others' opinions, whether praise or criticism, would no longer define your worth or direction. You've moved beyond seeking external validation. You now stand firmly anchored in your God-given identity, guided not by the changing opinions of others, but by the unchanging vision heaven has placed within your heart. You've become who you were destined to be, independent of human approval or understanding. Your divine vision is now your compass, directing your steps even when others can't comprehend where you're headed. That vision will carry you to heights others thought impossible, while naturally drawing those meant to follow your leadership. You're not behind, chosen one. It may feel like you've been waiting in the shadows forever, but divine timing is perfect. You're not behind. You're being precisely positioned. Every moment of isolation was necessary, preparation for the leadership mantle you're about to carry. While others rushed forward, you were being strengthened in the background. While others gained quick recognition, you were developing lasting wisdom. While others built networks, you were deepening your connection with yourself and with God. The time is approaching when you will step fully into the light. What once appeared as setback will reveal itself as the most perfect preparation for this moment. You're being equipped to lead in ways that will create lasting transformation rather than temporary impact. You've walked alone, but you won't remain alone. The crowds will come, not because you desperately sought them, but because your authentic path and divine purpose will naturally attract those who need exactly what your journey has prepared you to give. You are ready now, chosen one. It's your time to lead. What unique perspectives did your season of isolation reveal that others around you cannot see? Chapter 7. Now it's your turn to teach. You passed the divine examination. You endured what would have crushed many others. You faced storms that attempted to silence your voice wounds, that threatened to break your spirit, and endless nights that tested your faith to its absolute core. But you didn't fold under pressure. You didn't sell your soul for temporary relief. You didn't allow the pain to become your permanent identity. And now, chosen one, you stand as more than merely a survivor of life's harshest seasons. You have become a guide for those still walking through their own wilderness. You carry within you not just the scars of your journey, but the profound wisdom extracted from each painful experience. Not just memories of difficulty, but messages of hope that others desperately need to hear. Not just a testimony of survival, but a roadmap for those feeling lost in their own darkness. What you have endured was never meant to be contained within the boundaries of your personal story. It was always destined for something greater. Every tear that fell from your eyes, every desperate prayer whispered in the darkness, every moment you chose to keep moving forward, when everything within you screamed to give up, none of it was wasted. Doesn't allow sacred pain to remain purposeless. That difficult path you navigated without a guide, it has become a detailed map for someone else currently stumbling through similar territory. That authentic voice you discovered in the silence. It now serves as a beacon of light for those still searching for their own truth. The healing wisdom you extracted from your deepest wounds now holds the power to become someone else's breakthrough medicine. Your examination wasn't merely to test your personal faith and resilience. It was divinely designed to equip you for this next sacred assignment, helping others navigate their own tests with greater clarity and courage than you initially had. You intimately understand what it feels like to question your worth in a world that bases value on external measurements. You know the ache of feeling invisible, overlooked, forgotten by both people and heaven. You recognize the exhaustion of maintaining faith when evidence of its reward seems perpetually delayed. Because of this experiential knowledge, when someone else faces their darkest hour, you'll know exactly what they need to hear. Not because you studied theoretical answers in books, but because you lived the questions, and discovered the truth through experience. Your words carry the weight and authority that only authenticity can provide. You can recognize the silent battles beneath practiced smiles. You can detect the exhaustion behind forced strength. You can identify weary souls trying desperately to keep believing you've occupied those same spaces, and now you've been divinely positioned to reach back and lift others forward. Speak life. Chosen one. You don't need an official platform or prestigious title. Your very existence has become the message. Encourage those feeling discouraged by circumstances that seem insurmountable. Remind the weary of their true identity when they've forgotten who they are beneath their struggles. Tell them with absolute certainty that they haven't traveled too far to return, that heaven hasn't forgotten their address, that their story contains chapters yet unwritten. Speak truth wrapped in compassion. Be the voice you desperately needed to hear during your darkest moments. Share your story without editing out the parts that still bring discomfort. Include especially the chapters that remain tender to the touch, because authentic transparency creates spaces where others feel safe enough to begin their own healing journey. People aren't searching for polished perfection. They're desperately hungry for genuine truth. When you speak from the wounded places that have begun healing, defensive walls come down. When you honestly share what you've overcome without minimizing the struggle. It required you extend silent permission for others to acknowledge their own pain and begin their healing process. Your visible scars become living proof that healing isn't merely possible, it's inevitable when surrendered to divine timing. Lift others as you continue rising. True greatness isn't measured by how high you climb alone, but by how many hands you extend to those still struggling up the mountain. As heaven elevates you to new heights, maintain a humble heart and generous spirit. Don't allow success to erase the memory of what the valley felt like. The same divine grace that carried you through difficulty now flows through you to support someone else's journey. You don't diminish your own blessings by helping others discover theirs. In fact, you multiply your impact exponentially with every life you touch. Every person you help navigate their storm becomes another light bearer in a world desperate for authentic hope. You're no longer merely being tested. Now you're trusted with sacred influence. God assigns the hardest examinations to the strongest spirits, not to break them, but to build them into vessels capable of carrying profound truth to others. Once they demonstrate their faithfulness through testing, He doesn't simply reward them, He commissions them for greater purpose. You've proven yourself not only faithful through adversity, but ready for assignment. Heaven now recognizes you as a purified vessel, an authentic voice, a compassionate leader, someone who has been thoroughly refined and is prepared to be released into your full calling. God gives the hardest tests to the strongest students, and now that you've passed with honor, He's entrusting you with the next sacred mission to lead with wisdom, to love with understanding, to teach from experience, and to transform lives through your authentic testimony. The world is waiting, chosen one, and you stand ready. What specific wisdom from your journey are you now called to share with others who need exactly what you've learned? Chosen one, as our journey together comes to its completion, I want you to truly hear these final words. You are not reading this message by accident. You were divinely guided to this revelation at precisely the right moment in your spiritual evolution. The examination you've endured wasn't random hardship or meaningless suffering. It was sacred preparation for the extraordinary calling that now stands before you. Every tear, every doubt, every moment of loneliness was building something magnificent within you, that couldn't have been constructed any other way. You've passed the test that was designed specifically for you, not by taking shortcuts or compromising who you truly are, but by standing firm in your authentic truth, even when the storms raged around you. You maintained your integrity when others would have understood if you surrendered it. You preserved your compassion when bitterness seemed justified. You kept believing when doubt appeared more rational. And now heaven's applause surrounds you, even if your physical ears can't yet perceive it. The divine promotion has already begun in unseen realms. The spiritual authority you carry has been expanded. The impact you're destined to make has been magnified through the very challenges that once threatened to break you. Remember this truth. You weren't chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because your heart remained teachable through adversity. You weren't selected because you never fell. You were selected because you always found the courage to rise again. You weren't called because you had all the answers. You were called because you remained faithful even when the questions multiplied. This message is your divine confirmation. The hardest part of your journey is behind you. What lies ahead is the fulfillment of purposes greater than you've dared to imagine. If this message has awakened something within your spirit, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this revelation with others who may be walking through their own divine examination right now. Your simple act of sharing could be the lifeline someone desperately needs today. And if you recognize yourself in these words, if you know beyond doubt that you are among the chosen ones who have passed heaven's test, type 777 in the comments below. This number represents divine completion and perfect timing. It declares to both seen and unseen realms that you recognize and accept your spiritual assignment. I'll be sharing more revelations specifically for chosen ones in the coming days. Each message builds upon the last, creating a pathway of divine understanding and supernatural breakthrough. This is merely the beginning of what heaven wants to reveal to you. Until next time, remember this. You weren't broken. You were built for purpose. You weren't abandoned. You were being prepared for promotion. You weren't forgotten. You were being fashioned into exactly who you needed to become. The world is waiting for what only you can give. The time is now chosen, one. Your divine moment has arrived.